Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Big Mike Sports, Atlanta born, Carolina raised, Detroit driven. I'm your host, as usual, Big Mike,
The one and only. Yeah, I'm back.
the man himself. And this just in from our people on the ground in Tampa. Raheem Morris is not the head coach of the Buccaneers. That would be Todd Bowles. The intern who gave us the info about Morris has been sacked and is no longer invited to the company Christmas party.
You're not just wrong, you're stupid.
Now, this was another tough win for the Lions in yet another 20-6 game against a tough NFC South opponent. These teams who have kind of oddly good offenses when they feel like it, and then the defense is just trying to kill you. But the Lions were able to take care of business in Tampa, a travel destination that has been kinder than most to the Lions over the years. We've talked about before how their first road win in forever back in 2010 was on the road in Tampa, so usually good vibes down there. These are the type of games that you need to be able to win come playoff time, however. A defensive struggle where the run game gets taken away by the other team's defense, and it's up to your quarterback to win the game by making smart decisions and taking shots when necessary. And it's really easy to do that when you have such a sure-handed receiver who gets open so consistently, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god. 12 receptions, 124 yards, and a touchdown on a wacky run after catch, where he just kind of decided he was going to go for the end zone across the field, switches his, anyway. And then Jameson Williams on the deep shot, a 45-yard bomb to really kind of try and put the game away. Points when they really needed them, a big play when they really needed it. And yeah, when you got a quarterback like Goff who's accurate and knows what to do with the ball, knows when to take what the defense gives him, and then knows when to take shots like that, it's pretty tough to beat you when you have a quarterback like that. And he is also not turning the ball over as much as he did in that little stretch of games there. So really good stuff from the team's offense, even when everything looked like, it looked like the wheels could have easily fallen off the offense with Montgomery going out with a rib injury. You lose your workhorse running back, really who your offense moves through for the most part, them really being able to rally around the rest of their offense and really make something out of nothing with the run game being taken away by the Buccaneers' run defense, which is one of the best in the NFL. Well, the defense was also able to work together in all phases, on all levels. You had a tipped pass by the D-line, getting intercepted by Will Harris. That put the Lions in plus territory for their very first possession, I'm pretty sure. It was one of the first two possessions of the game. So they were able to take over pretty close to the Tampa Bay red zone. Pretty sure they got a field goal out of that to make it 3-0. So even more points off turnovers for the Lions, which has been something that they've been doing really well the past few games. And they almost forced two more interceptions on Baker Mayfield with a lot of pressure getting in his face. And also with them being able to take away the run like they normally do, this game was no different. Really put the game into Baker's hands, and with all that pressure, he wasn't able to do a whole lot with it. And it didn't help that his receivers, well, Mike Evans especially, brutal drops, especially a big one on third down. That would have been a pretty big conversion on 3rd and 12 later in the game. It seemed like Chris Godwin was the only player on offense that really got off the bus. Of course, the Buccaneers running backs weren't really able to do a whole lot against this rush defense. Long rushes of 8 and 7 for the top rushers for the Buccaneers in the game. And the Bucs had 2 weeks to prepare for this one since they had the bye week last week. So kind of odd that their offense came out so flat. Maybe it's, players like Mike Evans were a little rusty after the bye week. Who knows? But they never really seemed to have an answer, although they did move the ball down the field early. But eventually they failed on several third downs in a row, and the offense just completely sputtered out for a good portion of the game. They tried their best to come back late, but a lot of deep passes by Baker were overthrown. And yeah, it was just a tough day for Mayfield. But yeah, so the Lions defense was able to work together really nicely. They did, however, get pretty lucky on some of those overthrows by Baker Mayfield. A couple missed deep passes from him. But overall, the Lions defense was very effective, holding yet another NFL team to only 6 points, which is pretty difficult to do nowadays with offenses being how they are. So you got another stellar performance from the defense on the road. I guess they're really playing up to the road crowd. They're still undefeated on the road. Their only loss came at home, which you can't necessarily blame them for too much, It was a week 2 game against a pretty tough opponent. But if the Lions can continue winning like this on the road, like, the sky's the limit, really. They've been allowing their fans to really take over the opposing team stadiums with such big leads late in the game. You've heard chants of "Let's go Lions" at basically every away game by the end of the game when the home team's fans start to file out and all the Lions fans come up to the front. So, really good feeling for the team to be able to have such a backing like that on the road. Kind of makes the road games turn into home games eventually, especially late in the game like that when you're trying to put the game away. But speaking of the Bucks, it wasn't all bad for them. The Bucks defense ended up playing really well, holding that vaunted Lions rushing attack to only 40 yards the entire game. Of course, it kind of helped them that David Montgomery left the game with a rib injury relatively early on. And the Lions' only touchdowns came on a couple relatively fluky plays. There's an Amon-Ra St. Brown run after the catch where he catches the ball on the left side of the field and then completely turns the corner, starts going east to west, turns to the entire other side of the field, and gets sprung by a huge block by Craig Reynolds, and was able to tiptoe on the sideline. Looked like he went out of bounds, but upon further review, there was still grass between his cleat and the sideline. And yeah, scampered in for that touchdown. And then the long bomb for Jameson Williams I don't know if you could call it unexpected. I mean, the Lions offense was kind of going slow a little bit. I mean, a tough defense, obviously, but then just the ball tracking skills of Jameson Williams to be able to track down that ball and catch it for the touchdown. That was a catch with a pretty high degree of difficulty, and the fact that he was skilled enough to be able to reel it in like that, especially since he's had some issues with drops early in his career, that was really impressive from JMO. Really good stuff. Really the kind of threat that they needed, just the threat to take the top of the defense at any time and go for a long touchdown like that. Opposing teams are really going to have to think about that even more going forward now that they see JMO's ability to do just that. It's no longer theory, it's now coming into practice. And we're continued to be impressed by the Lions' resiliency in this, their best start since 2011. But it's time to see whether they can sustain this run since that 2011 team kind of sputtered out towards the end. They started 6-0, I think it was, but then they finished 10-6. Still good enough to make the playoffs. They went up against a crazy good Saints offense in the playoffs and kind of got run out of the building just a little bit. The Lions offense was nothing to shake your head at either. But yeah, the Saints were a little bit too much for them in that game. But back then the defense wasn't what it is now. Right now the defense is really good. More like that 2014 team that lost in controversial fashion to the Cowboys. So a really good sign for the Lions as they continue to try and trend upwards and make a push for the playoffs and try and win that playoff game. But it's important to see whether they can sustain this run since we know that last year they ended out pretty hot the end of the season, as we all know. But the schedule isn't going to get any easier because next week they are at the Ravens, a tough place to play at, a tough team to play. Of course, the Ravens have had their ups and downs over the course of the year. Really bad injury luck, kind of like the Lions have had the past several years. But, you can't count the Ravens out because Lamar Jackson is a huge X factor. One of those quarterbacks who, when he's on, he can win a game almost single-handedly. And in his home stadium, anything's possible. And plus the Lions, the past few years, had some trouble with scrambling quarterbacks. Of course, every team's defense does, where scrambling quarterbacks usually break free at least once or twice a game, even against the best defenses. So yeah, it'll be a really nice test to see exactly how far this Lions team has really come because, we see how well they do against this type of offense and this type of quarterback again, see if they can contain them now, kind of like they've been doing so far this season. And you can also see if the Lions offense can really, move the ball well when they need to and do all the things they need to score and win against another really good defense in another hostile environment. So, it's going to be another big test to see if they really stack up against the best of the best in the NFL. The Ravens aren't really considered that Tier 1 team exactly. They're kind of, they are close. They're more of a Tier 2 team, but they're still right on the doorstep with that quarterback receiver like Zay Flowers kind of coming into his own. and the defense doing well as well. So really excited to see how that game plays out. And of course, in 2021, of course, it was at Ford Field, the Lions' home, but it took that 64 yards, 66, whatever, NFL record-breaking field goal from Justin Tucker to be able to give the Ravens a win in that game. So the Ravens will have a little bit of home field advantage this time. Of course, we'll see if that really makes any difference, because the Lions, the past few away games, have been able to pull away pretty quickly and let their own fans be heard over the home team fans wherever they're playing. So, yeah, really excited to see that game. Really excited to see how far this team has come. I mean, we've seen it so far. This is yet another super impressive win. Of course, we don't know exactly how good the Buccaneers are going to end up being, since that offense got kind of put a spotlight on maybe some of their weaknesses there. Maybe they were kind of coasting on the backs of their defense, with the offense doing just enough to be able to win in previous games. But, they shut down yet another NFL team with good players. I mean, those two receivers are a couple of the best in the NFL. The offense can be potent when they want to be. And Baker Mayfield, when he goes down, sometimes he is able to engineer a sort of, late comeback that nobody's really expecting. But the Lions able to dominate time of possession, not really give the Buccaneers much of a chance at all. And just a pretty dominant performance all in all. Of course, the Lions got a few breaks, but it's nice to get breaks go for your team when they usually go against them. So, good teams find a way, and it looks like the Lions are currently a good team. So excited to see how the rest of the season goes, and another great game.
Take him to Detroit.
And North Carolina had a huge win at home against Miami. Miami reeling even more after that Georgia Tech loss in pretty, controversial fashion. That might be one of those losses that ring through the generations as the credibility of the Miami coaching staff gets called into question a little bit. Didn't seem like, I mean, it was close in the beginning. Miami had that halftime lead, but then UNC able to pull away late, scoring 24 points in a row to be able to put that team away and make themselves known as real ACC championship contenders. Of course, there's the rest of the season to play. The thing that sucks for UNC is that they're not necessarily going to have like a super great quality win on their resume. I mean, they will be able to beat Duke since they play, if they're able to, and then they'll play Clemson, which could be maybe a little bit of a good win. I don't know, but UNC basically has to finish undefeated, and then in that ACC championship, if they end up playing Florida State, that would have to be their big win for the resume. So it's in UNC's hands. It's just whether or not they'll be able to follow through on it with a perfect season. Can't really lose. That's the name of the game in college football, isn't it? And then they finally ranked Air Force. Air Force still undefeated, the 22nd best team in the country. Really been a fan of watching this Air Force team. Of course, we love triple option football here. But yeah, we'll always cheer for Air Force. And so really, really. Oh yeah, and then Duke will end up playing Florida State, so we'll have to see about that one. Maybe Duke can pull it off, who knows? But yeah, Florida State, definitely a really good team. Big test with that Duke defense, though. I don't know if FSU has played as good of a defense. Maybe LSU, who they took to point first game of the year. But yeah, that Duke defense is nothing to be, they're good. So yeah, more coverage of that and more later on. But now we got to go. Thanks for watching.